Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ryan. I'm a former commando from the United Kingdom, and today we're going to be talking about Ukraine. So we've got an update for you guys. We're going to be talking specifically on a number of points, pretty much all over Ukraine. Okay, we want to cover quite a few topics today. So make sure you get a coffee or a tea if you're from the United Kingdom, and enjoy the show today, troops. Before we get into it, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you like my content. But the first thing we're going to cover is Ukraine's southern counteroffensive that's continued to have significant impacts on Russian morale and military capabilities in southern Ukraine. We've been focusing on northern Ukraine. We're going to get to that later in the video, so make sure you stick around. But today, to start things off, I'm going to focus on the south, guys, because there's a few pertinent things happening there that I think is going to be quite interesting, troops. So let's get into it. So first things first, this is the map that we're going to be using today, the deep state map, and we will be heading to the Kherson region to start things off. Now, we've been looking at a number of sources of information here, but satellite imagery of known Russian positions in Kyselivka, apologies if I've made a massive pronunciation problem, but Kyselivka, or Selfika, is this region here, this little bit here, okay? It basically shows 15 kilometers northwest of Kherson city, shows that all but 4 Russian vehicles have departed from previous forward positions there. So we've got imagery on that showing the military movements and stuff like that. So it's as accurate as the information comes back with the satellite imagery, which, you know, is actually quite accurate. But that's consistent with the rumors that the Donetsk People Republic, the DNR troops, if you want to call them that, have abandoned this area in Selfika and moved back towards the Dnipro River. Again, apologies if I've made a mistake with the pronunciation of that. But you can see why they've probably pulled back from there. If they're under a lot of pressure off the Ukrainian troops, which they are in the north, and that's affecting morale across the whole board of the military, you can understand why they want to push back to maybe a little bit of a buffer zone of this river here. It makes perfect sense, you know, natural feature on the ground. We would use these all the time if we needed to tactically withdraw or just get to a better position to be able to fight another day from, okay? A river's a great thing because you're not going to change that, and, you know, you're not going to be able to move it all of a sudden. So they've moved back there out the way according to the satellite imagery, which tells a massive story with how Russia is actually, how they're actually dealing with things, okay? But, you know, Kyselivka is an operationally significant location for Russian forces around the Kherson city because it's the last major settlement. All right, it's the last major settlement along both the, it says the E58 highway and a railway line. Now, I believe this is the railway line here. This white line here is the railway line. But the E58, I can't seem to find that. I believe they're talking about the M14 highway, because when you look at Selfika, where they are, the only major highway that I can see is the M14. So maybe they've changed the numbers or names on there for tactical reasons. I'm not sure. But that's the in-between bit where they're talking about there. It's the last major settlement in between that. So the apparent withdrawal of Russian troops from this position may actually compromise Russia's ability to defend the northwestern outskirts of Kherson city, which makes sense. You've got this green zone here, and you've got another big feature, the estuary up here. It's going to make it difficult for them to defend the positions there anyway, you know, just off the type of ground that it is. But it suggests that Russian troops in this area perceive an imminent threat to their positions. So I don't know if they've got good intel on the ground. We haven't really been following the intel that they'd be given on the ground in the first place. It's primarily Ukraine. But in terms of how they're performing in the war, I don't think the intel will be that good anyway. But there is a major withdrawal from these regions. So I think what we've seen so far, if we just go back to the north, we've seen a massive withdrawal from this region here, Kaplansk and stuff, and it's just been humongous. All right, now, unless Russia knows something we don't, then we have to just take it that, you know, Ukraine has pushed them back, Russia doesn't have the will to fight, or there's something bigger going on here. If we're seeing troops from Russia pull back in grave numbers. Maybe there's something else going on here. Now, I don't want to be the bringer of bad news or fake news or anything, but I've been seeing a lot of comments below, and I've been doing my own little bits of research. There's stuff on the grapevine stating that potentially this could be a sign that Putin might be capable, might be willing to use bigger, more dangerous weapons, begin with an N, ending with ook. But I think that's far-fetched. I don't think that's the reason that Russia's pulling back. I think they're getting their asses kicked effectively. But yeah, what do you think about that? Maybe do you think nukes is a possibility, and that's the reason why the Russian troops are pulling back as quickly, especially from the Kherson region, where they've had a foothold for quite a long time now. I don't really know what to make of it, guys. But getting back to this, Ukrainian operations in Kharkiv Oblast are unlikely to have such a dramatic psychological effect on Russian troops this far south. Yeah, I kind of agree. I'm trying to think. Would what's happening in the north have such a dramatic effect on the troops in the south? Yes, it would. Just to put yourself there in the picture, if you're fighting in the north and your buddies is getting information back to you, because information does pass even in war zones, and they're getting their asses kicked, I think that's probably going to have an effect on morale, all right? And the guys on the ground who are there just to get a salary, they're not defending anything, they're not defending the homeland or the family, they're going to be pretty pissed off in this area, all right? And I think, word does travel fast, and they probably are feeling the effects of what's happening in the north, and they're feeling it in the south. Both the withdrawal of troops from positions in this area, pronunciation again, because Elfika, I think I've pronounced that right, and reports of surrender negotiations are indicators that Ukrainian counteroffensives in the south are progressing in a significant way. So we're not just seeing massive progress in the north, we're seeing massive progress in the south. We just haven't seen this red area turn blue yet, okay? But I think in the coming days, we might just see that. So we focused a lot on the north. I do think we're going to see a lot of traction in the south. Now, I originally thought the way Ukraine is moving through this, I originally thought that they're going to start pushing around this corner to the east, pushing them back even further, and then doing almost like a fish hook down and down to the southwest and just kicking them out that way. But what we could be seeing here is a strategical point that not many channels have mentioned, is they're going to be pushing them just far east from the north and then the south. If they can do that, then this war might be over quicker than we think, troops, okay? That's absolutely possible. The way they're going, the momentum they've got at this moment in time, that is definitely possible. And these indicators are actually, I think it's possible. But yeah, it's interesting to say the least how this is going, guys. So let's move on from that. Let's start talking about why Ukraine's recent success might have affected not just the troops on the ground's morale, but the morale back in Moscow to, make effective decisions on the battle space, because we're only focusing on the soldiers' morale on the ground. The Russian soldier has lost the will to fight, so to speak. But let's talk about the morale of the high-ranking officers and all of that kind of stuff, because the success of recent Ukrainian counter-offensive operations may actually have started to impact the will or the ability of the Russian military's command to use the newly formed volunteer units in Ukraine in a timely fashion. So we've seen the Ukrainian General Staff reported that the Russian military command has actually suspended sending new already formed units of soldiers, volunteers, to the Ukraine due to recent Russian losses. So the fact that they've lost all of this land in the Kupyansk region, in this northern region just outside Kharkiv, is it's actually affecting the Russian military command, and they're not really wanting to send these newly formed soldiers. My reckoning for that is they've got trained men on the ground right now who's got wartime under the belt. They've found their footing, so to speak, on the battle space, and these guys are actually tactically withdrawn or just retreating because of the imminent danger posed to them. All right, so they haven't got the spine for this anymore. The Russian military command's thinking, well, what's the point of sending newly already formed units to this region here when we've already got guys on the ground and the losses has been absolutely massive and widespread. And this is the thing, you know, this is all due to the recent Russian losses and widespread distrust of the Russian military command, factors which have caused a large number of volunteers to categorically refuse to participate in combat. Hence, we're seeing this here, this massive region of blue taken over. So it's not just we can't just put it down to, you know, Ukraine's just got the balls and just pushed forward. It is that. It's mostly that. But there's a lot more going on here, all right? There's guys on the ground and on Russia's side who just haven't got the will to fight anymore, and they're tactically withdrawn. They're getting the hell out of there. They don't want to fight in this region. Hence, we're seeing them passing over borders, swimming over streams, you know, leaving all of their kit and equipment behind just to get the hell out of there. So Russian military commanders thought, what's the point of all of these newly formed units of men that we've actually structured, trained, put money into? What's the point of us sending them there on the front lines? Zero war experience. It makes no sense whatsoever when you think of it logically, guys. You know, this assessment is still unconfirmed, but, you know, these factors which have caused large numbers of volunteers to categorically refuse to participate in combat. This is crazy. I mean, let's have a look at this here. This whole area, all right, is a product of troops en masse not really wanting to participate in combat, guys. you can't really you could never have predicted that. Okay. I don't even know, man. I don't even know how to. They say it's largely down to morale and low morale due to Ukrainian counter-offensive successes. It may prove devastating to the Kremlin's already poor ability to generate meaningful, capable, combat-ready, effective troops. Okay. Now, the deployment of these newly formed units to reinforce defensive lines against Ukrainian counteroffensive would be an operationally sound decision on the part of Russia's military leadership, because, you know, they need to take this ground back. And the delay of potential suspension of these deployments will afford Ukrainian troops time to consolidate and then resume the offensive. So what we're going to see potentially, if these newly formed troops aren't put on the ground quick, we're going to see that whole red region just become even more blue, all right? They're going to just take over and they're going to use that momentum. But, you know, Ukraine can't just steamroll. They need to reorganize themselves as well, rearm themselves and get themselves sorted out. You know, soldiers do need rest. They're not indestructible. It's one of those. So, you know, it's how Ukraine pushes, and it's also how Russia decides to, you know, well, effectively get these troops on the ground, you know. But are they going to quit as soon as they get there, you know, causing massive embarrassment to Russia? Only time will tell, you know. But should they do so without having to face newly arrived and fresh units, then they're going to cause a lot more trouble on the ground, basically. So what I'm trying to say is, if you send these guys to this region here to potentially push back these guys here, and they haven't got the will to fight, then it's going to make matters worse, basically. All right, they're going to give more confidence to Ukraine. You're going to give more confidence to this region here, and, you know, you're going to see this region just taken over even quicker. I mean, imagine it if you're part of Russia at this moment in time. Your morale's going to be low, your confidence is going to be low, and these are men, all right? And men, like, you know, we got egos on the battlefield as well, and, you know, their egos are going to be taking a massive hit. On a world stage, they've been shown up, all right? So if you were to send more troops there and do the exact same thing, that's going to be very, very embarrassing to Moscow, to, you know, to Putin. Putin's one of the type of guys where, you know, effectively, if he's pushed and he's embarrassed, I think he'll do some crazy, crazy stuff. So it can work both ways, this, guys. But hopefully you've enjoyed that little bit of a different update, but it is an update nonetheless. If you could subscribe to the channel, really, really help me out. Sorry, I pressed my intro button there by mistake. But guys, thanks for being here, and I will see you in the next update. Peace.